You're listening to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast brought to you by Nottinghamshire Live. Hello, welcome to Garibaldi Red. Nottingham Forest signed off their season to the sounds of Shakira with a 1-1 draw at Crystal Palace to ensure they finish 16th in the Premier League. The Reds are staying up, and joining to discuss that, first of all, is the head of the Shakira fan club, no doubt, Mr. Greg Mitchell. Greg, how are you?
I've been to see her, you know. I went to the O2 once, got there a bit late, but I think yesterday's performance was better than the real thing, if I'm honest.
Was she performing, or were you just following her?
No, she was she was at the O2 performing, yeah.
Oh, good.
Not my first choice to go and see, but yeah, we sang it better.
You need to preserve your voice. I can hear you a bit hoarse after singing at the weekend. So I'll come to Temp. Second guest today, Michael Temple. How are you?
I'd love to see Greg dressed as Shakira.
Would you? That's more about you than Greg.
You must be the only one in the country who feels like that.
Waka waka, hey hey.
Our final guest today, an alfresco Garry Birtles, who's joining us from sunnier climes, not the Amazon rainforest as it looks like. But Garry, how are you?
I'm not. I'm sat in the middle of a tree in Caterham in Surrey, and the wind is blowing like you wouldn't believe. It's not protecting me at all, so I'll be like an ice cube at the end of it.
Well, it's good of you to join. It's very much appreciated. We'll start with Greg, as you've traipsed the length and breadth of the country, hands in pockets a lot, not much reward, but a very, very enjoyable day, no doubt, on Sunday. Probably, the best away day of your most noisiest away end of your life following Forest.
Yeah, it's the best one I've ever been to. We were saying, since Steve Cooper arrived, that's the first ever game where just relax, nothing on it, no pressure. And it showed. I've never, ever been in anything like that, especially the first half. It was like, I keep seeing photos and videos from the first half, and it was like we'd scored a goal and we were celebrating like we'd just scored for the first 20 minutes. I've never seen anything like it. The walk to the ground, the pub pre-match, the George that we were in was just unbelievable. And everything. There was like tourists just taking videos of us all walking through London like this mass procession. But yeah, my voice says it all really, but I don't think anything will ever beat that for an atmosphere, ever.
What about the game, Temps? I mean, it wasn't a classic, but a nice way to end the season, a nice point, something to cheer, give the fans some cheer as well.
It was never going to be a classic, was it? Because no one was going to fly into tackles and break their leg before their holiday to Ibiza, Vegas, or wherever they're off to now for their well-deserved break. So far from it. But I think what we've seen now is the establishment of a core of players who we can kick on from. There's a certain level of freedom and confidence in yesterday's performance that I hope we can take forward, and a spine of the team emerging. I'll just expand on what Greg said, because I was in the pub yesterday, and not only did the fans sing for 90 minutes, they sang on the busiest train I've ever seen from London Bridge to Norwood Junction relentlessly. I wasn't quite sure where the George was, but I heard them the second I stepped outside of Borough Market. And for convoluted reasons, I was sat with the Palace fans about 10 yards away from Greg and the Forest army, and they couldn't get a word in. They had their 35 strong junior mafia in the black tracksuits trying to resemble European ultras in their home end, and they couldn't lay a glove on what the Forest fans did yesterday. Absolutely relentless for 90 minutes, probably more like 2 hours if you factor in the pre-match and the party with the players dancing and joining in afterwards. So just truly exceptional levels of support, and long may that continue.
And Garry, the finish to the season, it's been outstanding. Really, wins against Brighton, Arsenal, Southampton, draws at Chelsea, a draw to finish. With the pressure on, the way Forest have turned it round and stayed up, it is a credit to the manager, the players, the staff, and everyone involved, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, yesterday I was doing Chelsea Newcastle, so I'm down in Surrey, so I had to go up to Fulham Broadway via Victoria to get there. And Norwood Junction's four stations up from here, where I am. And coming back, I saw all the Forest supporters on the platforms and everything. And Arsenal were playing Wolves. and there were loads of, just a fantastic atmosphere all the way around on the trains. And going back to that question you just said, I mean, nobody gave us a chance, I don't think. There weren't many of us who said Forest would stay up. I was one of them. I went on printing. I did a piece for The Sun before the Chelsea game because we beat them 6-2 years ago. Myself and Neil Webb scored a hat-trick on the day. And, it's just incredible. I think the before yesterday, the 10 points out of the 12 were just staggeringly good against teams that were, one was fighting for their lives in Southampton. Brighton have been up there deservedly all season. Chelsea, we got a point there. Newcastle struggled a little bit yesterday at Chelsea. Chelsea did quite well, although without a striker. I think I was looking at Manager of the Years. It came up on something I was watching, and Steve Cooper's name wasn't there. I'm thinking, well, hold on a minute. Why is Steve Cooper's name not there? It's, same old predictable. Yes, the teams at the top, you can understand that. But what he's done in the 2 years he's been at this football club is just incredible. Absolutely incredible. And the backroom team as well, Alan Tate, Andy Reid and everybody else at the football club, Jamie, and there's so many you can name. It's just a collective. It's not an individual. It's about, keeping together, staying together, believing together, and, getting there together. And if you haven't got that, which I think I saw a little bit at Chelsea yesterday at times, you think where they finished in the league, mediocrity for them. We've got it totally right, and, they've got it totally wrong. And I think the big thing about it is how many teams have changed managers so many times, and Southampton have gone down, Leicester have gone down, Leeds have gone down. Teams who have changed the managers a number of times. You can say, yes, Crystal Palace, they got Roy Hodgson in, and he kept them up. But sticking with Steve Cooper was the best decision I think the owners made. And you have to give him credit for that as well.
I think there's two things that make it a bit sweeter beyond staying up. Firstly, the togetherness. You saw the scenes at Ellen Road and how bitter and the vitriol there was at the end aimed at their players. And then secondly, the pundits writing us off completely, because I think a part of it was the easy option because they hadn't seen Forest and they just assumed they weren't going to be any good, I guess, and didn't want to, they didn't want to say Everton would go down. Your mate Cara, Greg, saying
can I just say something there? Those people and those pundits who said we'd go down, where are they now? Have you heard anything saying, well, we were wrong? No, you haven't.
No, true.
It's easy to come out and say, yeah, Forest are going down. But now we haven't gone down. Come out and say, hey, well done, Steve Cooper, well done, Forest. But now they won't.
I mean, Greg Carragher, I like Jamie Carragher, to be fair, but he said he thought Everton would stay up basically for no reason other than they'd been in the Premier League a long time. And he's an Everton fan, really, and his family are. But, you must get a bit of smug satisfaction yourself, be honest.
Yeah, I think Carragher's built some bridges. He's done all right the last couple of days. He's got Gibbs White, his best player, and you can see the back of his mind, it must be eating away a little bit. But not so sure about Neville, but they didn't really care that much, do they? It's all about top four with them. I don't know. It doesn't. I think that helped us. I think everyone being against us, everyone writing us off, it put a real bee in a bonnet. And it weren't just the fans. You could see the management and the players, the way they spoke, and like you say, the togetherness. I think it helped us. So let them write us off again next season. I think we're fifth favourites to go down already. I don't care. I don't mind that at all because they don't spend enough attention at that part of the league. So it's just the easy ones to... We've done it. I've done it already. I've said Luton. I've said all three will go down. And one of them, no doubt, will be, nearer mid-table than bottom. You just don't know with this league. But thank God we're in it because looking at that championship next season, you couldn't call who's going to go up.
Can I just say about... I think another thing I've got to say about Steve and what he did was how he changed the system. And can I give a big, massive, praise for Joe Worrell coming back in the team and playing as part of that back three at that particular point where those results came our way. To change it round from what we'd been and leave certain players out and bring, a new system in there. It takes a lot of courage to do that. And I think Joe came in. I thought he was magnificent towards the end, when he came in. And I think you've got to give him big praise. He's a, out and out Forest fan. And I just thought his contribution at the end was as big as anybody's.
Yes, we'll come on to Joe. He's on the list. I wanted to have a section on him and look ahead to next season. The other thing, Temps, was I mentioned that kind of togetherness. I mean, we'll probably come on to this at the end, but it's been a special time, hasn't it? If you go back to September 2021, when Cooper came in, to be where we are now, and you see like the demise of Leicester and Leeds and Everton kind of just circling the drain constantly, just barely staying up, to be where Forest are now. I appreciate it won't always be like this, will it? So it kind of feels like we have to make the most of these times.
Our club craved that togetherness because we'd cycled through managers pretty endlessly without direction, had a few near misses, perhaps most recently with Sabri Lamouchi, but there was never that connection between players, supporters, manager. And I've said it before, but when Steve Cooper needed the fans, they kept him in a job. They rejected the rumours being floated about his replacements. They doubled down on their support for him, and he doubled down on his commitment to that group of players and the manner in which he interacts with the squad. So it's become self-fulfilling now. And I just hope that we can maintain this for a sustained period of time, because it will be hard to replicate in the distant future when at some point we inevitably have to. But I think sometimes there's just a compatibility between a particular type of manager, a particular individual, and the club that they find themselves at. Steve Cooper paid tribute yesterday to Roy Hodgson and the job that he'd done at Crystal Palace, and the way in which he invigorated a club that felt they needed to kick on and, get a relatively trendy young thing in Patrick Vieira. But Roy Hodgson comes back, releases the shackles, and look where he finds himself. The other interesting thing Steve Cooper said in that media conference yesterday, this is his 4th season as a first-team manager, an absolute fraction of the experience that Roy Hodgson has, and he's going to be better and wiser for having had the triumphs of this season, but also the dark times, the periods where we weren't scoring goals, we were conceding at will, and we weren't putting runs of points together. Steve Cooper will continue to grow as a manager. He'll continue to evolve our style. But let's just give him the plaudits he needs right now in this moment for inheriting a club in a hopeless position, finding a way to win in the Championship, now having found another way to get established in the Premier League. And we're going to see him continue to evolve as a manager, and his Forest team continue to evolve as we make further progress in the toughest division in the world.
I just want to cover off the game. I mean, we won't talk about it too much. There isn't a huge amount to say. I've muted you, Gary, because you're very windy, so to speak. But I'll unmute you in a second. Muted. I'll unmute you now because I want to ask you about the quality of the goal, that ball from Morgan, the finish from Taiwo. From a striker's point of view, that finish typified the confidence of the player, didn't it?
Well, you talk about Taiwo, and he's not been fully fit, has he? A fully fit striker is so unbelievably important to any team. I was at Chelsea yesterday, and they've spent so much money, and it's so obvious what they need in their team. There are so many decent approach play from them, and so many decent balls across the face of the goal, and all you're waiting is for a Awoniyi for a tap-in. They don't have an Awoniyi. There's no... It really staggered me how they got it wrong in not signing somebody who can score a number of goals. And if he stays fit, he is going to score, in the Premier League. He's proved it now. He's gone into double figures. Had he been fully fit, had we had him all season, then it could have been a totally different story. I just think he gives us something totally different. He's got pace, he's got aggression, he's got awareness. He gets himself in the right place at the right time. And, we've got people who can supply him with the service that strikers need to score goals.
we'll come on next week, probably more like in-depth breaking the squad down. But Greg, I felt like they probably needed another number 9 to compete with Taiwo, but he's been so outstanding. They've got Chris Wood coming back. They've got Sam Surridge. Do they need another striker, you think, in the summer still?
I wouldn't be surprised if, at least 2 of our strikers are elsewhere next season. And Taiwo would be the starter every day of the week if he's fit. But as we've seen this season, you lose that player for a certain amount of weeks or months and you're in trouble. So to be a truly competitive Premier League team, you're almost going to have to not waste money, but use some of that money you need elsewhere just for your backup. Just like we did with Hendo and Navas. I mean, if we hadn't have made that move with Hendo getting injured, I know Hennessy played well yesterday, but I know there's been mistakes, but I don't think Navas has ever been so busy as he has this season. Without making that backup move, we'd have been in so much more trouble. So I think we'd all feel a little more confident if we did have that option on the bench, or you have 2 of them playing or ready for when they have a knock, because he's been critical. I know a lot of players you could put in this category, but he has kept us up this season through coming back how he did and scoring the amount of goals. God, how many would he have scored?
True. So, I mean, Greg in the comments, Greg Oram mentions Tammy Abraham, which is ambitious temps, but it's also probably the kind of level you need to look at to kick on, isn't it?
Got to improve the squad. Hardest thing in the world in management, moving out good players to bring in better ones. I've just read Dylan's comment in the YouTube comments, and he lists a number of players who we might want to ship on. There's a few considerations that fans were probably not always party to. Forest did stretch themselves in January, and I think there was some money spent, which was a little bit speculative in the sense that getting that wage bill to where it was in January, with signings like Wood, Shelby, Ayew, probably has removed some of our prowess in the summer window. But there are a lot of players that I think we as fans and the recruitment team of the club will be looking to move on. There'll be a lot of trading this summer. If we are going to recruit, I hope it's considered. I hope there are 3 or 4 players that we bring in who are first 11 ready, because I don't think we're in a position now where we need to fill the bench with also-rans. If we're going to establish ourselves somewhere towards that top 12, in that position which Palace have occupied traditionally for the last few years, we need to get past teams of the ilk of Palace, Everton, Wolves, maybe Fulham, who the bookies have pegged to be in that kind of space. So yeah, a name like Tammy Abraham excites me. I hope that's the calibre of player that we're looking for, so we can kick on and not just replace one surname with another with a very similar level and skill set.
Is that a big thing for you, Gary? I suppose Leicester and Leeds are like a bit of a cautionary tale to me about mismanagement of, moving managers on and getting transfers wrong. What Forest can't do now is rest on their laurels. We know they're very prolific with transfers, but the importance of getting this summer transfer window right is essential, isn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. Do you want me to try and move somewhere else so it's a little less windy?
No, you're fine. Don't worry.
Gary told us he was sat on a log in some kind of magic garden, and he's partaking in a glass of wine as well. So I'm loving this.
We can hear you well. We can hear you well.
I'm trying to get out the wind a little bit, and I can just move backwards a little bit. It looks a little less windy. Do you want to try that?
Yeah, do that. I'll come back to you.
Oh, he cruel.
I'm muted him. This is a chilled out end of season podcast.
Can't wait to see where he goes.
He's in a wind trap. He's sat on a stump, but look how happy he is. Forest is staying up. Garry Birtles is looking resplendent on his holiday in Surrey. And it's smiles
he's had his
all
glass
around.
of wine with his lunch. Right, he's put his thumb up. We can hear you well, Gary, I think. Tell us about the importance of getting a transfer window right.
Well, I go back to the game I did yesterday, and what Newcastle, will do, I would think, is build on what they've created this season. What Chelsea got wrong is, again, like so many teams have done, is changed managers so many times. You look at how many managers they've had this season, and it's just so obvious that that's one of the reasons they've struggled this season. And you've got to say the same about others. It's the bravery of owners and people in charge of football clubs keeping people in charge that you've seen this season, towards the back end of the season, that have worked. They've stuck with the people they bought in the first place. And, you know, Steve, I think will be given the wherewithal this time to go and say, right, these are the players I want to bring in. You know, we talked about the 20-odd players, and everybody talked about every stadium I went to, or every ground, everybody I spoke to. Oh, how many players did you get in? You know, it's like a bit of a standing joke. You know, people were talking about it. But thank goodness we did get that many, because we've had so many injuries. So in the end, it did work out quite well. It's going to be the preparation for next season is going to be so important, as it always is. I mean, Chelsea have got Pochettino coming in anytime now, apparently. So, you know, that's going to be a massive thing for them. And it's going to be a massive thing for any Premier League club, you know, to build on what they've achieved this season, because they've stayed in the Premier League. You know, Bournemouth, Fulham, who came up with us, you know, they'll be looking to, you know, improve and try and protect their Premier League status. So, you know, it's never easy, and there aren't that many great players out there you can bring in. But I think because of what we've achieved this season in staying up, people will want to come to our football club, because they've seen, you know, the atmosphere at the City Ground is just incredible. The away support has been unbelievable. And, you know, you've got a manager in there who I just hope doesn't go somewhere else, because there are rumours going around. You know, I've heard Crystal Palace mentioned. People were talking about it yesterday, talking to me at Chelsea Ground, saying, "Oh, is Steve Cooper staying?" You know, we've heard, you know, Crystal Palace, and these are the stories you don't want to sort of hear, because he's done an incredible job. He's united not just the football club, but, you know, the city of Nottingham, and, you know, Notts County got promoted. You know, the city of Nottingham is a happy place at the moment, and you don't want that to change.
True. Just wanting to expand a bit more on the league next season before we finish the game, Temps. It's fair to say it's going to be a weaker league, isn't it, next season, you think?
Yes, because the sides coming up aren't equipped to compete in quite the same way that the promoted teams last year were. We come up late, spent a lot of money. Fulham already had a core together, and we've seen what Bournemouth have been able to do. I think there will be results that surprise people. You know, Luton will turn a few over at home, I'm sure, but they don't appear likely to stay in the Premier League for me next season. Sheffield United have a reported transfer budget of 20 million quid, which in today's market is £5.50 in old money. I just can't see them being as competitive. I think we can get past Bournemouth next season, but as I said, it's just when we start to compete with those more established mid-table sides, because Everton will come again. Wolves have probably underachieved a little bit. You could argue that Fulham have overachieved, but it's baby steps, and every incremental place is worth a lot of money and has to be hard fought. Again, I said it earlier, I think Palace is the next rung of the ladder for us. They have players who can replace their weapons. With, you know, Will Saha sat in the stands for the last few weeks, but they haven't really suffered with Eze and Elise and one or two others trying to take on the mantle. So, you know, as we said before, recruitment will be key. Greg's going to have an outlandish prediction pretty soon, I'm sure. But I'd be delighted with a 12th, 13th place finish next season, and I think that is within our grasp.
Yes, no doubt. No doubt, Greg going to have an outlandish prediction when we get closer. Do you have any sympathy at all, Greg, for the relegated teams? And it's pretty horrible being a fan who gets relegated, but it's fair to say the two that went were the two you wanted on the day.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Southampton. But, you know, walking out the ground yesterday, got to London Bridge, and it was brilliant because Everton had like 10 minutes injury time, so we're all celebrating. I'll be honest, at one point at full time, I wasn't sure whether we'd won or drew. I kind of forgot about the score, but checking up on the Everton score as soon as that came in, for me, I mean, living on the border of Leicestershire, great, and got to the train station. The first person to come through is this Everton fan in his Everton kit, so I had a good chat with him and congratulated him. But I don't have sympathy with Leeds at all. They showed us so much disrespect when we lost to them up at Ellen Road, and We all know about Leicester. They've told us for the past 10 years how great they are and where they're going. And, they built that massive training facility on the Notts border, which we're now going to pick from over the next few years. So I don't have any sympathy with them. I never had sympathy with Leicester when they went into administration all those years ago and never paid the milkman. So, what goes around comes around. And I'm sure one day they'll be back at us for it. But for the minute, just a little smile on my face. Couldn't have gone better yesterday.
I was going to say, I think Wolves are my tip to struggle. My Wolves don't sound very optimistic about selling lots of players. The manager might go, key players having to be sold. So they'd be my very early tip to struggle. Gary, what's a realistic progress for you next season for Forest? Greg's already talking about 9th. Temps is talking about 12th. Greg's probably talking about Europe. What should we realistically be aiming for next season, Gary, do you think?
You're always looking for progress in any small amount, and I think that's possible. I think the squad he's got there now, the people he brought in, look at Danilo, Stipe, they were so inspirational in what happened towards the end of the season. And if you can, recruitment is paramount from any football club. If you get your recruitment right and the people in the right areas, then you've got a chance. And I think that's going to be, the big thing to get that right. You don't have to go and buy a lot of players because that squad is, not too bad at all at the moment. Obviously, the away form's got to, be transformed a little bit. If you see Tarzan swinging anywhere in a minute, don't be alarmed. It's very bizarre in here, surrounded by trees and nature.
It's like Matt's garden.
Yeah, my battery's getting low as well, unfortunately. It's going to be an interesting summer. It always is. You're always looking for the people coming in, and like I say, people will want to come to our football club now. And you can get the players at good money to come to our football club because of what Steve Cooper's done. They can see that it's a happy football club. It's a well-run football club, and that's important. You look at other. I keep going back to Chelsea. It's mediocre. It's mediocrity. You saw, what Eddie Howe's done at Newcastle and what's going on at Chelsea, and that's why they're in the Champions League and Chelsea are in mid-table. If you get it right off the pitch, you're going to get it right on the pitch, and clearly Chelsea have struggled to do that this season, and we haven't. Steve Cooper again. I just can't speak highly enough of him because he's been inspirational, not just for the football club, but for, everybody in Nottingham, because Nottingham's not the biggest club. You compare it with Manchester, Liverpool, and the, London teams. We're not a massive city, and to do what he's done and to attract the players he has to come in and do the job they've done has been extremely unbelievable for me. And, I can't get the smile off of my face at the moment because, everybody wrote us off and, we've come through it all, the adversity of it all. And, it's fully deserved that we've stayed up. It's not a fluke we've stayed up. We got 4 points off Brighton. We didn't get beat by Brighton, one of the brightest teams in the division this season. So we beat Liverpool. We got beat 3-2 by Liverpool at Anfield by the odd goal. So you have to compare things like that a little bit. And I'm really looking forward to next season because I think the improvement will be there and I think we'll do better next season.
I just want to round off a couple more points on the game on Saturday, which leads into players heading into next season anyway. Gary mentioned Joe Worrell there, Temps. Quite a lot of fans would probably have been willing to sell Joe in the summer. I suppose now he's certainly here, part of the squad next season. Is he done enough to be in the starting 11, or is that still the big challenge for him to maintain his place?
On the form of the last 5-6 weeks, he definitely deserves to be in and around the starting 11. Much of that will depend on the shape we have next year. If we're going to continue playing with a back three or a back five with 3 centre-halves required, he gets in there for me. His positional awareness, the defensive side of his game has come to the fore in the last few weeks. We've always known he can pick a pass. and looks to play, but he'll be kept on his toes by Bolly, Niakate and Felipe. I actually think that's one of the positions where we are well served and do have adequate backup to come in. He's heading into the last year of his contract. He had a lifelong ambition to captain this team in this league. And I think an important part of the spirit and the togetherness at Forest comes from that pathway from academy to first team. And him, along with Brennan and Yatesy, are the embodiment of that at our club at this moment in time. So, yes, for me, Warren is very much part of the core of the squad. I expect him to extend his contract during this summer and to commit for a significant period of time. There are other players on my kind of maybe list who I'm not sure will stay or go, but I've inked in Joe Worrell as one that we should be really keen to keep for all of those reasons I've just mentioned. And I'm almost certain he'll commit his future for a significant period of time.
I think we're a Birtles down. I think the battery's failed.
He's fallen off his log.
He's climbed that tree.
Swooped and taken by Tarzan, never to be seen again. Right, what I'll do is, I think I'll just remove Garry. Okay. I've removed him, and I hope you haven't banned him, because it might be difficult to get him back in that case. Okay, we'll see if Garry comes back. If not, we've had 30 minutes of entertainment with Garry there, so that was good. I suppose, Greg, the other thing to say about Joe, the challenge for Steve Cooper, I can call him Steve, he's not my mate, is kind of how do you get Worrell, Brennan, Johnson, not my mate, Danilo, how do you get all these players into the team? That's going to be an interesting one next season, because obviously there's going to be new signings as well. It's going to be a bit of a conundrum, like what formation do we play? How do we get everyone who wants into the team? And in a way, I mean, that's a great position to be in as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's proven that he's not scared to change things. Keeping Johnson out of the team those 2 or 3 games recently when he was in top form, but Cooper recognised that no matter how good he's playing, and he wasn't fit for the system at that time. And that run of games where Johnson came on for 20, 30 minutes was critical. So I have full trust in Cooper to get those players in the team if and when they're required. And it counts for every single one of them. Even Gibbs White, even he can miss a couple of games or to get things right. So I think, I don't know, some of those players off the pitch yesterday, even though they're not with us, they're not registered with us next season, I'm sure they want to be here. The way they hung around, poor Crystal Palace are waiting to do their lap of honour, and one of their stewards in the end had to come over and I think pick Lodi and Mangala and Aurier maybe out of the crowd to get them away. It was incredible, and you think that's one of those players is a guy who could have just got away, off he went, never to be seen again. But I think they want to be here, and the main reason they want to be here is because of Steve Cooper. And Garry mentioning about other teams wanting him. I want that to be the case every single season. I want next season there to be rumours about Cooper going to Spurs or somewhere else, because it means he's had such a successful season again. His 5th season in management next year. It's incredible. I don't think we realise, I know the fans adore him, but I don't think we realise just what a job he's done in such a short space of time. And I'm sure if he was off the continent, he'd already be going for those much more lucrative, we'll say, jobs at the minute. So we're extremely lucky to have him, and I can't wait to see what he does in the summer, because there will be some gems between the recruitment team and himself and others. So I know I'm always excited with this team, but I am extremely excited now.
There's going to be some guaranteed changes as well. I mean, did it felt like a goodbye from Lodi Temp at the weekend?
Yeah, I knew I was going to be asked this question. I hope not, but all initial signs seem to suggest that he'll at least be considering his options. Look, he's a 25-year-old lad with 16 caps for Brazil, and he's contracted to Atletico Madrid, who have once again qualified for the Champions League. So he's a global citizen in footballing terms, and he will have a lot of clubs touting for his services next year. I think we'll be one of them. We're certainly not closing the door on trying to attract Renan Lodi to the club on a permanent basis. I think it will require a lot of money to get it done. I know the clause has expired by which we could have bought him at a fixed price. So there'll be negotiation ongoing now. He had a baby a couple of months ago, and travel in and out of the country to be with his family was pretty tough for him. So I hope we find a way. If we don't, it won't be for a lack of trying or a lack of quality, because he is as comfortable at left back as left wing back. I think there's more to come from him in an attacking system, as we saw in that cup game against Leeds, where he cuts off the left and finds top bins with his right foot. I really admire him as a player. I think he's an automatic selection if he is here next year. I really hope that deal can be struck. But yeah, he showed from his media in recent days that he knows this may be the end of his journey at Forest for all those reasons I've just described. But let's hope we can find a way to get that deal done.
Were you a bit gutted, Greg? No Jack Cole back at the weekend. I haven't seen any quotes, but I assume it's injury, which is a shame, isn't it? He didn't get to go out on his sword, so to speak.
Yeah, and it was nice because there was about, 20 seconds of brief no Waka Waka songs, and one of them was the Jack Colback song, which everyone joined in that. So I don't know whether he was at the ground, but I hope he heard that, because he has been a massive part of this team that, over the start of the Cooper years, he's going to change dramatically, I suppose, next year compared to where it was last year, and he's going to always have a huge place in Forest fans' heart of this generation. So I'm not sure whether he retires and goes off doing whatever, or he plays somewhere else. But if he stays fit, there'll be a lucky club whoever get him. So yeah, gonna miss him, but we move on, don't we? Unfortunately.
Fullback's interesting. Temps, is Aurier a lock for you? If he, I think he's got a clause that he'll probably sign another year if Forest stayed up, which obviously they did. Is he nailed on for you, or do you think Forest can do better? Sounds a bit disrespectful, but the way Cooper probably wants to play, with Nico brought in as a more attacking wing back style, do Forest maybe look to upgrade in the sense of Aurier?
It's not even debatable for me. We're probably in slightly different camps there. I think Aurier stays and starts the majority of next season's games. He probably doesn't have the same profile as Nico in an attacking sense, but I think the stability he's brought to the side, his ability to deal with headline players who operate on the left wing in the teams that we've come up against, give him the edge for me. Again, another player that's kept himself fit, proved some doubters wrong, and helped us to get to where we are. So he was in Tony Cascarino's Premier League Team of the Year today in the Times, qualified by the fact he challenged himself by only being allowed to pick one player from each team. So there are better right backs in the Premier League, but I think Serge Aurier is probably the best right back we could hope for at this time. There's chat about Jed Spence. Is that a bit of a romantic one? Has he? Will he maintain those standards in the Premier League after what's been a really disjointed year for him? I don't know. He was certainly very attacking and creative, wasn't he, in a front foot side? But for me, on balance, I think that defensive solidity is what we need first and foremost. Jed did abandon his post at times, did run past his winger, did leave space in behind, but recovered from difficult positions through just pace and endeavour to get himself back behind the ball and able to support us defensively. So to answer your question directly, I would back Aurier, and he'd be a starter for me next season.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of his. I think he's done really well. And we also have to bear in mind FFP and things like that, don't we? There's not a bottomless money pit. I just wonder, I think Cooper's instinct is probably to have attacking fullbacks where he can, and Aurier's strengths are defensively, which is fine when you're down the bottom league as well. To have a player who's been as good as that is fine with me. So yeah, no problem at all if Serge Aurier's the starting right back next season. A couple more points before we go in the next 5 minutes or so. A year today since Wembley, Greg. I'm not sure what we can say apart other than what a day it was, but we can't let it go without commenting on it, can we?
Yeah, I've been thinking this morning. I was straight onto I don't use my Facebook that much, but I had a look at all the memories with a smile, and I thought to myself, if this season hadn't have gone the way it had, how horrible it would have been looking back at those memories, thinking, oh, what's gone wrong? But it's great. It was great being down there again yesterday and reliving some of that. And I just wish we could have had 30,000 of us down there again, because it was just brilliant. It was so good to see it, and reminded me of just how different this squad is now. Seeing Horvath, congratulations to him. One way or another, he's going to be in the Prem next season, isn't he? Whether we take him off Luton, that might be a good step, damage their hopes a bit, or get some money, who knows? But yeah, it's just nice to see. And then tomorrow we've got the memories of Market Square again, haven't we? And I'm sure my voice was as bad this time last year, so nothing changes.
That was the great sliding doors day, though, wasn't it, Temps? You look at Coventry and Luton, and that one big opportunity probably for Coventry, realistically, that they're not going to get again. They're going to lose Gyökeres and Hamer and top players, and that would have been us a year ago. Realistically, we would have lost Brennan. We'd never have had Felipe, Navas, players that wear the shirt now. Absolutely nonsensical to think of that when Greg was at Stoke and fans were practically ready to riot with each other. I say sliding doors moment. It's that game opened up everything, didn't it, to be where we are now?
What's happening to Coventry, to see what happened to Huddersfield from having that manager and that group of players and being that close to the top tier to where they are now. It's a hair's breadth in sports sometimes between success and failure, but such is the gulf between the Championship and the Premier League that the hard work restarts again a week later, doesn't it? We've done exceptionally well to keep our foot in that door, but I'll never forget last year. I thought it was one of the best days ever for me supporting this club the day out at Wembley, and yesterday in a kind of mood sense felt very similar. But the hard work this year was done over the previous 37 games. Just such an exceptional time. And to Greg's point, let's hope we have so many more of these trips to big London clubs where we can take over central London boozers, fill trains up and down the country, and get behind this team in a way that fan bases of no other club is able to. I think we've made a lot of fans at other clubs this year, not only in the way we've gone about the football aspect, but the support as well. And Greg and a number of others I know have been the architects of that. But the buy-in has been complete from top to bottom. Everybody's played their part this year. Football isn't always like this, and enjoy it while it's here. We're up, others are down. The natural order's been restored in the East Midlands, and it can be us that are, cocky and confident at work, rubbing our colleagues, friends, mates, WhatsApp groups, noses in it, and enjoying this time as Forest fans.
Absolutely. Just dipping into comments before we go. Apologies for mentioning Stoke away to Door on Tour. I know that was a sore one for everyone. And Aidan, yes, you probably did see me at Foss Park the other day. It's a very niche comment to respond to, but yeah, I was there. Oh dear, it's funny you talk about that. I was dropped in the WhatsApp group earlier about Derby, and then, a colleague had written a perfectly reasonable piece about who they're playing next season, and the list was Leyton Orient, Stevenage, Carlisle, and practically everyone in that league's struggling, to be fair. But yeah, mad how things have changed, but definitely enjoying the moment. Any other business, Greg, before we depart?
No, for once I haven't. Just brilliant to be around everyone yesterday. And Greg, you mentioned Greg Oram. I met him and met a load of people. A load of the Munster guys were over again. And, my mate Shane just flying in the morning, back out by the time we'd got home. I think he was already home. So it was just such a party atmosphere. I don't think I'll ever be in an atmosphere like that again. Just the constant like euphoria. It was just like about 15 years of release, it felt like. So no more than me, just happy memories, and what a season.
True. Shout out to Shane of Shaney Stats. I enjoy those. Yeah. Another very Temps, anything else from you?
Look, football's over for a few weeks, so get yourself down to Trent Bridge tomorrow, Notts v Yorkshire, £10 a ticket. I know Greg will be there, hopefully. So yeah, come and fill some seats for us and get behind the boys. And yeah, just echoing all the comments, really paying tribute to you, Matt, for keeping this thing running and getting so many ex-pros, ex-coaches, people of far more loftier standing than Greg and I to come and talk football with us every week. It's been great fun. And likewise for everybody commenting. It's really nice to hear, to get tapped on the shoulder in the loud or whatever, and for people to come and say hello and have a chat. Apologies if you're getting abused in Foss Park, because people are always very nice to me when I see them.
Any abuse at all? No, all the comments are very much appreciated. We'll carry on through the summer. Don't worry. We'll potter along, and I'll get everyone back together for a season review awards thing next week. So
you better mention your live show, Matt.
Well, that's on my. I've got any of the businesses. The live show. Tickets are really selling properly fast. They'll probably go today or tomorrow. So if you haven't got one, it's the 22nd of June, Thursday the 22nd. It's at the Trent Nav. Fletch is on the panel, and Lewis is on the panel, and Garry, since he likes being outdoors, might be on the panel as well. And Greg, Temps, Mikey, and Emily will all be there as well. So do come along and see us. Like I say, the tickets really are selling fast. The link is in the comments for this on YouTube, and I'll drop them in on the Facebook description in the comments, and in audio, I'll try and drop it in the comments for that, the link for that. Otherwise, it's on Twitter at Garibaldi Red Podcast. I'll have to dig out the tag for that. While I do that, I'm going to talk about the FPL League, because it's finished, and well done to James Benham, who won 2,655 points. Joe Need came second, 35 points behind. Simon Huff third, Katie Howe fourth, Tristan Lomas came fifth. A couple of the notable names, Greg's mate Christian came 20th. We're pleased to know, Greg.
Yeah, didn't scrape it in.
No, that's a good finish.
Is it? Is it?
I think so. Callum Castell, who people know off Twitter, came 28th. Mikey's brother Lawrence came 57th. I came 64th, so pretty good. And my plan was to dig out where these other boys came, but I've been so busy at work that I didn't.
So far down the list. We're so far down the list, you didn't have time.
No, I couldn't find you. Otherwise, I would have done. But no, thanks to everyone who played that league. If James is listening, and I hope he is since he's in the league, do send me a message on Twitter or something, and I'll sort you out a signed mug, and then you can wait about a year to get it, as Greg and Temps will attest. That's how long it takes. Right, Garibaldi Red Twitter for people who need to get me for anything, at Garibaldi Red _ if you're looking for the ticket link, is the pinned tweet there. And if you want a signed mug and you've actually earned it by winning the podcast, then do get in touch. Right, Greg, thank you very much.
No, I enjoyed it. Cheers, Matt. Cheers for the season. So great stuff.
Yep, great stuff. Temps, you were 700 plus, Will says in the comments. So, about mid-table. So not too bad.
I'm not surprised. Too many weeks where I forgot to change my team or missed Man U strikers having 2 games in a game week. As I said last time, the top 25, where were you, Matt? 27th?
64.
The top 64 should be ashamed, because they're spending far too much of their working day working out permutations, opposition fixtures and form. So well done to everybody that finished 700th and below for taking their family life and their jobs seriously. Shame on the rest of you. And the other thing I was going to mention, actually, we had a tweet from our friend at Left Lion, who's putting out that interview this week. So the next edition of Left Lion has a little feature with us for, which was really fun to record.
Yeah, that was another thing I should have mentioned. Yeah, that was really good. So get your copies of Left Lion and take your FPL as serious as me. Don't listen to Thames. Right, we're going to go. I don't think we'll be back later in the week. We shall be back this time next week with Greg and Temps, hopefully, and Mikey, and we'll do some sort of end of season awards and maybe some early predictions for next season. But in the meantime, thanks very much to everyone who's listened. Very much appreciated. One more thing. Steve Allen says, ask Greg about Dortmund. He's sad, Greg.
I'm not even going to... That's just a low blow. It's been a good weekend other than that. So, yeah. ask him about his. Oh, he's doing. So he won some money off betting against Dortmund because he's a bit spiteful like that. However, what I will say is. He realised we were a bit upset about that, so he's donated the money to my mate's charity Stand Against MND. So I can't even be too mardy about it. So thank you, Steve, for that. He's not going to get me to rise.
Good. Poor old Dortmund, missing out on goal difference after. I'll say bottling it on the final day, but that might be harsh. I don't know. Greg's shaking his head at me.
Well, right. Let's just move on. One more thing. Can someone please quickly release a Forest song to get Waka Waka out of my head? Because I didn't sleep too well last night, and I feel like it's starting to torture me as much as I love it.
Right, even by my standards, this is the longest outro ever. I think we started saying goodbye about 10 minutes ago. So, thanks very much, everyone. Have a good week, and we shall see you this time next week.